have been so many retro handheld releases this year, and Anbernic have been on the sort of role that reviewers' dreams are made of. Who writes these scripts? And I feel like the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro has been neglected to some extent. In terms of how good it is and how lucky we are to have devices like this that exist in the world. It's a sort of does-it-all device. You see what I did there? Repeating the title in the introduction to trick you into thinking this is important. So we're going to start this 3 months later review backwards by starting with a comparison of a bunch of devices, which I usually do at the end. I'm going to do it in the beginning, which means my video is kind of backwards, but you're going to watch it from start to finish anyway, and you won't even notice that, so why am I even saying this? So I've got all these devices, we're going to look at them now, but let's quickly do a message from my sponsor. Fear not, because PCBWay is here. Their comprehensive online ordering system makes it both easy and efficient to get a quote for your next custom project. And if you get stuck, they have an online live chat to guide you through the process step by step. This is for novice electronic projects all the way through to commercial stuff. So whether it's 3D printing, custom PCBs, and even CNC projects, think of PCBWay. So I realized that a lot of these devices aren't in the same price bracket, aren't in the same performance bracket, but I want to kind of start with this to prove my does-it-all approach. Let's start with the Anbernic Arc. So this is the first one on the list that, horizontal form factors that I have here in the studio. This is one of the few on the list that really hold its own. And the reason for that is that this is a very niche and unique device, and it does its own kind of thing. It's got the 6-button layout, it's got this floating D-pad. It really is a special device and kind of holds its own as the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. But the point here is that the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro can do everything this can do and then some. But again, like if you have the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro and you saw this and you've got the money, this would be a hard one to pass up because it is just so unique. I know this doesn't 100% make sense, but hear me out here. Then we've got the Trim UI Smart Pro. This is quite a special device, a bigger screen than the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. The sticks aren't as good, and this doesn't have much over the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro apart from being maybe a little bit more ergonomic and the bigger screen, but it lacks power and it's got terrible joysticks. The Retroid Pocket 4 Pro can do everything that this thing can do. Then let's move over to original hardware for a second. We've got the 3DS. Now, this is also a hard one to compete with because nothing really beats the 3DS. My 3DS is a bit banged up, but nothing really beats the 3DS. The Steamdeck can maybe compete with the 3DS, but in this argument, you're going to struggle. But the thing is, the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, as we'll see later in this video, does a lot of 3DS very, very well, and it looks exceptional on the screen. So, if you're looking for a specific game, like someone said they could get Sonic Generations working properly on their device, I just can't do it. And so Sonic Generations is relegated to the original hardware, whereas if you're not very specific, there are a lot of 3DS games that are going to play beautifully on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. Then you've got your Game Boy. Obviously, the only thing you're losing here is the nostalgia. Obviously, nothing beats the original Game Boy, but objectively, you're not going to get an argument to say that this is better than the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. And same for, this is not original hardware, but my funny playing Game Boy Color. You're not really going to compete with that. So done with that. Done with the 3DS. Then we've got the PowerKitty RGB 10 Max 3 Pro. Lol. That's just a piece of crap. Then we've got the PowerKitty RGB 10 Max 3, the normal Max 3. This is one of my sort of hot takes for the year, one of the best budget horizontal form factor devices with a nice grip. So it's small and comfy. That's the real selling point in this, and it's got a great screen, runs Linux. It's really, really nice. But again, it's not going to compete against the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. I understand that all of these are cheaper, but hear me out. I'm going to make my point at the end. And then actually, I find this an interesting point is the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. Now, you can't buy these new anymore. Maybe a few resellers have got some stock. But this is a great second-hand deal. If you're not wanting the extra power of the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, this was the device. I think I made it my device of the year last year. I'm not sure, the year before. But it is a very, very good device still. It feels good. It's a little bit skinnier than the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. There's something very special about this device. It's got that X factor. And so this is a great budget alternative. But again, not going to beat the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro in any sort of stretch of the imagination. And then we've got the RG556. Now, this is definitely a great contender against that Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. This is subjective as to which one is better. Depends on what you like. This is bigger. Pros and cons to that. Got pretty good triggers on it. Very nice plastic, even though, I mean, it's a lot cheaper actually than the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. Cheaper feeling. Great buttons and a little bit less power than the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. Actually quite a bit less power. And then this screen is objectively better. It's an OLED screen. It's a very high resolution OLED screen. But the thing is, the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro screen isn't half bad. They've tuned it to be like an...
Thank you, Aiden. You see, playing Sonic Advance on the Retroid Pocket 4 display is kind of like having permanent locked interframe blending enabled. At its worst moments, it's like a video game equivalent of brushing flour across a cutting board. It's so blurry that I can't even tell who this is. Is it Mario? Is it Crash? Is it Darkwing Duck? I can't tell. And in a 3D game like GoldenEye, you basically have permanent motion blur enabled, which is icky because everyone knows that real gamers turn motion blur off. Look at this, I can barely tell that this is Daniel Craig in the mirror. It looks exactly the same as my actual vision does after I've been up all night editing, or playing GoldenEye. And the reality is that the RP4 Pro display is basically worse than everything else in its bracket, especially when you compare it to the Anbernic RG556 with its silky smooth OLED display. No blurriness or interframe blending effects there, that's for sure. You know that movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper? That's kind of like what it feels like, but like not in a good way. Instead of being psychedelic and fast, it's just like blurry and slow, if that makes sense. All things considered though, this handheld is still pretty...
So my point is, this device, the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, can do everything that these devices can do, and then some. And I don't know, I really like the screen. There was a magenta ghosting on the screen when I first got it, which seems to have been fixed with updates. And I was talking to TechDweeb about how good dark NES games look on the Steamdeck OLED. So I thought, let me try it on here, let me have a look. And look how good these blacks are on the screen. I'm going to try and make it look as it looks here in the studio in post-production, but it's looking really, really nice. Some people out there don't know who they are, feel like there's something wrong with the screen, but I like it. So they've tuned up the saturation, they've tuned up the contrast, which makes it more OLED-ish. It does also make it not so great for watching content like YouTube and Netflix and that sort of thing, but that's not what we're here for, and that's okay with me. So let's talk about things relevant to 3 months later. And the main thing are the triggers. So when this was first launched, there was an issue with the triggers. Now, my triggers, which is one of the first batch, anything before the 30th of January, will have this trigger issue. There was something wrong with the springs, they were lower quality springs, and you can actually feel it. This is very soft. It doesn't have a very nice feeling response like the 556. It has a very nice resistance to it. This doesn't have that. Any decent quality device has got a good resistance to the analog triggers, and this doesn't have that. But if you bought it past 30th of Jan, I'll put the message that they sent out a while back. And then that's this same guy, Chris, I reached out to him today to confirm, and he said, yes, the new triggers, the new springs do have a firmness to them that's better than this floppy nonsense that they released with the first batch. And then other than that, I haven't experienced any major quality concerns over the time that I've used it. The D-pad feels good. The sticks feel good. These buttons feel good. I'm not even seeing any body scrape on the buttons. So overall, quality is actually very, very good. Like I said, this plastic is better than the RG556 for sure. It's definitely a better quality plastic, meaning it's more flexible and it's not going to break as easily if you drop it. And then Retroid overall, like I'm going to mention a couple of things later in the video, but I like Retroid. They are a good company. They've been upfront. There was some drama a while back with the release of the Retroid Pocket 3 and then immediately the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. And so a lot of people were upset about that. There were manufacturing issues. The 3 took really long to get out and then they released the Plus. And so it was a little bit sketchy on their part. But as far as I understand, they had to do it. Otherwise, their business would have gone under. And so they've been upfront about these things. Whereas a lot of these Chinese manufacturers will simply just sweep it under the rug and hopefully nobody notices. With these triggers, they were upfront about it. They've given a 2-year warranty on the triggers that were released before the 30th. So they're an okay company. And you find there's a passion behind the devices that they create. This is where being a tester, being a reviewer, and having all these devices is good. You know, sometimes we get a little bit jaded because we get so many devices and we get fussy and all that sort of thing. But the one really good thing is the fact that I can tell you if something has that sort of X factor. And that's why I say the RGB3, Parkity RGB10 Max 3, bloody hell, these names, has that X factor. Because I pick up a lot of these devices. I picked that one up and I was like, I'm going to enjoy this thing. If it was the only device I had, I would really enjoy picking that up on a daily basis. I don't think it quite has the star quality of the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. I think that it came out at the right time. There was nothing like it on the market yet. It was just very, very special. I don't think the Odin had come out yet. So it was really unique on the market. Whereas this comes in at a very competitive time, but by the same token, if you own this, like for instance, the RG556, I'm already kind of getting bored of the feeling of it. Whereas this, I spent a little bit of time away from it. I picked it up and it was like picking up an old friend. It was like I felt good about having it in my hands again. That also sounds bad. You know what I mean? It's just a pleasant device. There's a tactile comfort to holding and using this device. The plastic is a very, very nice texture. I really like the feeling of this plastic. And then we've spoken about the triggers. The triggers are great feeling. So if you get the ones after the 30th of Jan, you're winning because these are more comfortable than the RG556. They just don't have the resistance. So with a bit more resistance, these will be some of the nicest triggers that I own. They brought these action buttons out with the Retroid Pocket Flip. I just love them. I absolutely love them. There's something about them, the texture of them. They are quite clackety-clack. Actually not as clackety as the Retro Pocket Flip, but there's just something really special about them. Like I say, there's no body scrape. They're double injection molded so that the lettering is actually injected into the plastic. The D-pad is a dome switch D-pad, so like it or lump it. The thing is, what's nice about a dome switch D-pad is it's very direct. You know that you get pressing up and sideways or down and sideways or whatever. You know what you're pressing. It's not as sort of fluid as a membrane D-pad for fighting games, but it definitely has a lot of pros to it being a dome switch D-pad. Then we've got these joysticks which are like real game changers for this sort of like mid to low range devices. I was testing the RGB20SX, the RG556, and then I went back to this and I was playing some Sonic, I think. It was just a pleasure playing with these sticks. The motion of them, just the pure motion, like forget about whether they're accurate or not, just the motion of moving them from side to side is very soft and gentle and it feels really good in the hand to play. And that's what I mean, like this whole feeling in the hand thing. To pick up and play, does it feel good? And they really do feel great. But then, by the way, they are very accurate and really, really good. Their whole sensors, so very good. My only gripe is this volume and power button. It's just not as nice as the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. Okay, their volume was on the side here, but it was just a better quality feeling button. These sink into the body and just don't feel as premium. It's just like a little quirk, you know? And the only real major small gripe I would say is when you hold it in your hand, the chamfering around the edges of these two here and the volume holes is very sharp. They did this with the metal case for the Retro Pocket 3 Plus as well. They're just very sharp. And so, you know, for otherwise perfectly smooth, and even the triggers under here where manufacturers often neglect are well chamfered, it doesn't feel sharp. This is sharp here at the bottom and it just doesn't feel nice. So that brings us to the grip. We need to talk about the grip. This is an important part of, if you're looking at this, comparing it to the RG556 and everything else. Retroid made a decision. They decided, let's stick with our ethos of pocket-friendly devices, and this still is pocket-friendly. It's maybe not the most pocket-friendly with these sticks that protrude and the triggers that jut out so much, but we are getting the best of all the worlds and still remaining pocketable. That is the idea behind this device. And I know it's an extra cost for a grip, but what it does is it gives you the options. Whereas to play devil's advocate against the RG556, which does have these wonderful bulges on the ends, this just isn't as travel friendly. And they have that ridiculous Gucci style case, which I did get because I know that my kids are going to want to take this on holiday with us. This gives you the option. You can chuck this in the bag. It's also more sort of travel friendly because you can just squeeze it in anywhere. And you now have the option of sitting in bed at night nice and comfy, or sitting on the couch while everyone's watching a series nice and comfy playing your games. You can even stream, talk about that just now, but you get a pocket-friendly device that also becomes an ergonomic device. Now, let's quickly just, while I'm here, this definitely wins the race in terms... Actually, this is the thing. Like, I've never actually sat and just thought, okay, because I just assumed this is better. But now that I'm here, call me a liar, but this feels better. And that's a big shock. Whoa, big shock. Ooh. So I'm sort of having an argument with myself between the RG556 video that I made where I said, you can still travel with it and you get the comfort and the nice big screen. That is the benefit there. And that's the argument to be made to buy that one. But if pocketability and travel friendly is more of a priority for you, then this is definitely the one to go for, and then you're getting the benefit of more performance. So it really is the perfect travel device given its size and its power. It's lovely. And then, this has multi-port capabilities. So we're going to just quickly plug in here, and we're just going to quickly, So there you have it. I'm just using my top-down camera live on camera. And there you go. It works as an HDMI port. So with this cheap Amazon dongle, I'll put the link below, you can now dock this quite easily. So this gives, it's got HDMI out, and you can use this for your 2.4 gigahertz controller. This is the power, and off I go. That is a console. Actually, a very cheap, very easy way to consoleize this device. So you literally just lay it on the table, plug in all your goodies, and you're done. I was away from this device for a while. I was testing other devices. I put it down, and when I picked it up again and I looked at, I need to update some of the emulators, and I was fiddling around with it, and I was just overwhelmed at how much I like this device. The controls, the screen. Don't listen to that other guy.
Thank you, Aiden.
Games like Sonic Colors, Super Mario for 3DS and Wii, it all really just comes together. When you start getting picky, obviously there's going to be games that don't play. This is emulation, but there are thousands of games that do play. We never even touched on PS2 emulation, which is also improved from the 556 on here. Although this thing is pricey, you're getting a travel-friendly, powerful device that plays lots of games, and honestly, it does it all. Then we've got the... Whoops. Oh, come on, man. Not we, the game, we. And then obviously Darkwing Duck, forever and ever and ever and ever. They used the Wii thingy,